All right, welcome to Sales Theory. We're going to discuss today some of the introductory thoughts, if you will, about a very important kind of branch of sales. They're kind of a few different, kind of approaches. There's definitely, that old style door-to-door, right? Probably don't want to do that. Although door-to-door is as ineffective as it is sometimes in actually producing sales. Though you can sell some stuff that way, but it's really not a very effective way. But where it is effective is it helps a salesperson to develop, thicker skin, if you will, right? There's something about dealing with that level of rejection, with the occasional highlight of a good sale and the pressure, to make that moment count when you're with somebody. That if you had any fear of being, around people or having to talk with people, door-to-door sales is actually a good way to get rid of it. To just, you go rapid fire. After a couple of months, you're so used to interacting with people that your outlook kind of changes on, your kind of interaction style there. Now, some people interacting with people is not a challenge, or they've already overcome it. But for the more reserved people, sometimes an opportunity like that kind of breaks through the mold. But that's not really where we're going to focus in for this class. It's not those type of sales techniques. I'm more interested in something that's kind of called consultative selling. Consultative, from the word consult, right? So the basic idea behind this form of sales is that you are in partnership almost with your client, right? You're not there to put the high pressure on, although you may need to close well. But you're not there to put on the high pressure. You are there to walk them through the thought process of how your service or product can benefit them, right? That you're not that high-pressure car salesman, right, who's trying to get the sale by emotional, karate, that kind of emotional oppression, that you if you put enough pressure on somebody, that they may agree just to get out of the situation and to move on, but that's not what we want, because the danger of that, people that, you live by the sword, you die by the sword. People that live by high-pressure sales, they end up with no repeat business whatsoever. And so, because, who wants to go through that again? So they may get the immediate sale, but their long-term success is not good. And if you're in a product category where people, where the majority of your sales come from repeat business, then that type of method, it wouldn't work. And so, and then you feel bad yourself, or at least I would, if you were going around all the time, all day, every day, trying to live by putting so much pressure on people, that they give in. It's really not in my mind at least, not the best way to go about the career of sales, right, and the process of sales. And sales is huge for just about any business. If there's going to be any kind of transaction of money, right, which is pretty much how you define a business, then at some point somebody's got to determine in their mind that they want what you have, right? And so unless your marketing is so great and so pervasive that you don't have to convince anyone, then at some point you're going to have some sales. And even companies that have really great marketing, let me give you an example, Coca-Cola, right? They don't have to have a salesperson at the store convincing you to buy a soda or drink of some kind, right? But they do have to have salespeople to convince the store owner that they should carry the product, right? So even in that, somebody with such pervasive, well-known marketing as Coca-Cola still has to market themselves to retailers and to stores so that these places are carrying their products. So they may not be necessarily selling with an actual salesperson to individuals, but there's still sales going on, right? So to get to the heart of this, just kind of to show you what this is at first, is the idea that when you sit down at a desk with someone or you're making your presentation, that you are listening to the goals, the dreams, the vision that that company has. And by hearing what they are trying to do, then you begin to try and see what solutions you have that could help them, right? That your goal is not to walk in there with an agenda to push a particular thing, although you will have a plan. Your goal is not to push any particular thing in consultative selling. In consultative selling, you want to consult. You want to hear them out. You want to hear what they have to say, right? You want to know what their dream is. I think of Cake Boss sometimes as, now, Cake Boss is business, normally business to consumer, right? Consultative selling quite often is business to business, right? So if you've got some business that needs something and you offer something in that field, you may sit down with them, figure out exactly what it is they need, and together you come up with a solution so that you can fulfill their need. And as you create that solution together, then all of a sudden you become invaluable, right? You're not just the salesperson that they're trying to avoid. Oh, great, this person is trying to sell to me again. You are a salesperson who has merged into the fabric of their business, because now they are dependent on the solution you've created for their business, right? But another form of consultative selling that you might be more familiar with would be Cake Boss. And if you've seen that show, they create like a custom kind of cake for people. And what they will do is they will have a consultation with the customer. And so they'll sit down and they don't go in with an agenda about how the cake should be. First thing they do is start asking questions of the customer. Hey, what is your dream for this? What do you want it to be like? What do you see? Right? And then as they are talking back and forth, they're able to come up with a solution. And it's only after they've come up with that solution do they then try and sell and start talking about the numbers and that kind of stuff, because it's really hard to know the numbers if you don't know what it is, right? I mean, you can't quote them, to use that example, you can't quote them on the cake until you know what they're asking for. Are they asking for a small birthday cake? Are they wanting some giant, 3D massive, work of art? Is it some, sculptured wedding cake? Whatever it is, whatever they're asking for will determine the price. And so you really, as a consultative salesperson, you don't go in there with specific, price or any of that kind of stuff. You go in there with an open mind, with the object of trying to help them come up with a solution, right? And it is that word help, right? That you are not there to push something on them. You are there to help them, right? So I want to give a couple of thoughts here in terms of salespeople who do this form, right? There's a few basic concepts that they have. So I want to give you a couple of things. One is that in the convincing of your approach, right? Because you're not just trying to have a conversation with them, tell them what you think is good, and then leave. I mean, you are still doing sales, right? But the method, the hook, if you will, is not high pressure. It is creativity and a good solution, right? If you can give them a really great solution to where they see you as someone who's going to take their business to the next level, then you don't have to worry about high pressures, right? Then you just worry about executing and getting them what they said on time and being professional in that manner, right? But in terms of having to convince them through pressure, you don't ever have to do that if you can convince them through the solid solution that you're offering them, and if they can see the value. So these are kind of the things, these three things I'm going to give you are three things that will help them to see the value of your solution, right? And so it's kind of a three-pronged approach that there are different types of value and different types of hindrances that people have to seeing value. So these are the three main categories. The first one is that the ROI, right, return on investment, is effective, or, you know, what's a better way to say that would be, is substantial. Let's say it that way. The return on investment is substantial. You could even say that the return on investment is worth pursuing. Right? But so the basic idea is that the ROI, the return on investment, is worth it. So you may be showing them in the sales meeting all the neat features and all that kind of stuff, and you know, because that's something you like. Or maybe you're talking to them about the color choices and all of that. But maybe this business person is sitting up there thinking, well, yeah, I mean, those are nice colors, but your product costs $10,000. I don't know if it's worth it or not, is what they're thinking in their head. So you're trying to address that, because as a business person, they're thinking, all right, if I'm going to pay the $10,000 for your product or your service, what does that get me in return? Right? What is my return on the $10,000 that I'm giving you? And so you need to put their mind at ease. And so you need to have some real information, right? Not just guesses. If at all possible, real information is better, particularly to an analytical business mind. They want to know actual returns to the extent that you can give that information, right? And so what is the return on investment, right? And so, you know, some things are not like finances where the return on investment is 12% interest or something. So you may not be able to give them a number like that, but maybe return on investment is efficiency. And you can show them that by doing this, you may need 2 less employees by purchasing our machine, right? And those 2 less employees, that could save you $30,000 a year in the first 5 years, and then more after that, you know, whatever it is. And so you can show them that the return on investment is worth it, right? So, but you need to be able to prove that if you're going to show that. If you're selling somebody a printer, maybe you talk to them about the price per page, or maybe the return on investment. You help them to see that your customer service, you know, your warranty is good, and you know, or something to that effect. Or maybe there's a trade-in program after 4 years where you can get rid of your old one and put in a new one, that other companies don't do that, or something to that effect. But you have to somehow show them that the money that they are putting out is wise, and that it's got a wise return coming back, right? You know, maybe if it is a printer, maybe you're talking to them about the advantages of having, you know, being able to print their stuff in-house versus going to a printing company, right? Because a lot of small businesses, maybe they're outsourcing their printing to some online company, and so maybe your return on investment, you're going to a small to medium-sized business and saying, hey, listen, I know you've been putting out your money to go to this printing company online. They do all your printing for you. But I want to present to you our printer. It's a little more up front. It's maybe $4,000 up front, which we can break into monthly payments. But the idea is that over the next 5 years, you're going to save thousands, right? And that's what you want them to see, is that by putting up some money up front, they are going to have a return out of your product. So whatever your product is, somehow or another, you have to be convincing that there is a return on their investment, right? And don't just assume that they are going to see it because you see it, right? Because you're sold on your product, right? Because you're trying to sell it. You know what your product can do, but the people that you're interacting with, they don't know that. And so part of consultative selling, that interaction, that consulting, is that you help them to custom tailor an understanding of how your product will produce a return on investment for their vision and for how they intend to use it, right? And so if in the process of talking with them, you make it clear that this is a custom solution for them or something, you know, that this is what your company can save, this is what your company, you know, can get. If you're selling to a customer, an individual consumer, you have some of these things. Now, some things when you're selling to use the Cake Boss example, maybe the return on investment, maybe you do a comparison, or perhaps maybe what you would do, maybe a better way to say that would be, maybe you show them what a regular cake is like versus your cake. And so then all of a sudden you give them something to see that for the extra $200, your cake is amazing compared to just, a flat regular birthday cake, right, with just some icing letters on it or something. And so you have to somehow, for your business, figure out what is the way that you are going to convince them that they are getting something in return for what they are paying out, right? That their investment is wise. And so you need to be able to put that into their mind specifically for their vision and for their company. The second one deals with risk, right? So the second category of things that you're thinking about, because you're guiding this sales presentation, so you want to make sure you address these three areas. So the second one is the risk is acceptable. You need to be able to convince them that the risk associated with your product is acceptable, right? And so for some companies that's more important than in others, right? To use an easy example, say if you're investing in stocks or some kind of financial instrument, people really want to know what is the risk, what is the chances that I will lose my money, right? So what is the risk? Because if you have a return on investment, then there's got to be some level of risk, right? So to use the printer example, okay, over the next 5 years, I'm going to save, according to this salesperson, thousands of dollars. But what if the printer breaks halfway through? And then I haven't saved anything. I got to buy a whole nother one on top of it, and I wasted all this money on a printer. That's a potential risk, right? And so maybe your company offers some kind of warranty, because this person's thinking, man, we pay $200 a month for our printing. We've never had to put out thousands of dollars all at one shot. I mean, what if the thing breaks? What if I don't like it after 3 months? What if a part on it wears out or something like that? I mean, there's all kinds of potential risks that are going through this person's mind, right? What if I can't operate it as good? That's a risk. What if I'm not good at it? What if I can't set it up? If you just drop it off and I got to set it up, what if I don't set it up right? What if I break something, right? And so there are potential risks in your client's mind, right? And so any one client may not have all of those risks running through their mind, but most clients, their mind will go to some potential risk, some potential problem, some fear that they have associated with purchasing your product. And so one of the things as a salesperson that you have to do is be able to convince them that the risk is acceptable, right? Not that there is no risk. You don't want to go that route, because to a wise business person, they're going to hear that as you don't know what you're talking about, because there is clearly a risk. If the thing breaks, then that's a problem, right? And so there is some risk. So you have to show them that the risk is acceptable, that you have a solution for the risk, right? So either you have a solution for the risk, or that the risk is an acceptable level for the potential return. So use finances with the stock market. There is potential risk, but many people still invest in it because for the amount of risk that there is also an acceptable amount of potential return, right? And so a lot of people are willing to invest in the stock market knowing that there's risk they could lose their money, because the risk seems acceptable in light of the potential returns, right? So I may lose $10, but I could make 10 or 20, whatever it is, And so most people are looking at it as though the stock market has traditionally, even though it's gone down at various seasons, traditionally been on an upward trajectory. And you may catch it on a down moment, but overall, through the course of American history, the stock market has basically gone up. And it's not a straight line up. It's ups and then downs and then higher, and it's working its way upward traditionally. It doesn't mean it always do that, but traditionally it has done that. And so that's what has drawn many people into the stock market, that they know there will be moments of drawback, right, risk, where they are losing money, but their expectation is that they are going to have positive returns at some point. So for them, the risk is acceptable because the return is so good, right? Or another example would be the printing thing. You say, okay, my risk is that this printer breaks. So how do you fix that worry in my mind? Well, how about a warranty, right? And so you talk to me about how, for the first 5 years, right, anything that breaks on this printer, we cover it, right? So that this person is guaranteed that they will cover the cost of their initial investment, right? That within 5 years, not only will you have paid off your printer, but you will be making money on all of your printing savings because you bought this printer versus going to a printing company, right? So you want to make sure that I am covered and that I will be able to have a positive return. If you can't give me a warranty, then the risk associated with your printer may be too high for me and I may avoid you, right? And so not only are you trying to convince me that if I put money into this that there's a return on investment, you also have to convince me that the risks for whatever the product is, whatever the solution is that you're trying to present to me, that the risks are manageable, that you understand the risk, right, first off. Because if you try and pull the wool over my eyes and tell me that there is no risk, I'll see through that and I'll avoid you, right? Because either you are not aware of the risk or you're trying to manipulate me into thinking there is no risk. So a wise business person knows there's risk with just about everything. So they don't want to hear there is no risk. They want to hear you fully understand the risk and this is what you've done to make that risk acceptable or to fix as a solution like a warranty so that the risk is covered, right? Okay, so that's the second one. And then the third one deals with competition, right? Your place in the market, if you will, right? So you need to convince them that you are the best option, right? You have to convince them that you are the best option among your competition, right? And your competition may not be, to use the printing example, your competition may not just be other companies that sell printers, right? Your competition are all of the other solutions that business may choose besides you. So other printers, that is competition, right? Other people that sell printers, but online printing companies where they can just go and send a file and get the printing copies back and they don't have to have any of that equipment. That is also your competition, even though they're not selling printers, right? They are selling something that is a solution for your customer that is the same customer's problem that you're trying to fix, right? So when you think of competition, don't just think of people that do exactly what you do, right? You have to think about people that are trying to fix the solution that you're trying to fix. That's your competition, right? So in church, your competition is not other churches, right? Although they are potential solutions. Somebody's looking to go to a church, they will choose between all the churches in their community, right? But the real problem that they're looking at is trying to find meaning with their life, perhaps, or trying to find relationships, a community that they can be part of. And so maybe other things that are competing with the church are not just other churches, but things like nightclubs or things like community centers where people can go and get to know each other, different things like that. So even though they're not other churches, they are still meeting that same need, basically, that churches meet, although it's not on the same level, obviously, because of the power of the Lord is ultimately what they're looking for, right? But my point is that until they get to know that the Lord is the ultimate solution that they need in their life, they may try and fill that need with a whole bunch of other community things or social things that will lead them there instead of the church, right? And that same principle applies to business things, that your product or solution may not be the only way to do it, right? And so you may have competition from all the other people that are trying to do it the way you're doing it, but your competition is also all the other people that are doing it in a different way, but trying to fix that same problem, right? Okay. So you have to convince your people that you are the best option, right? So not just the best one at doing what you do, but you are the best option for their problem, for their vision. And one of the ways that you're really able to do that is through this consultative selling, that you've had the dialogue with them now about what is their vision and what they're trying to do. And so now you are better able to talk to them about why your solution is the best for what they're trying to do, right? So it's not just a general, hey, we're the best printing company, rah, 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 kind of stuff. That's, that you get on flyers and things, we're the nation's best, world's best cup of coffee. Congratulations. All right. That it's not just the flyer stuff that we're talking about. We're talking about somebody that's actually sat down with the business, heard them out. You're familiar now with their vision, with their goals, with what they're trying to accomplish, and you've tailored something now that you think fits that exactly. And so now you have a better perspective and angle to show them why you think you're the best, right? But you have to convince them of that, right? That you may tailor this whole solution, but maybe in their mind they're thinking, well, okay, this guy's onto something, but maybe there's 2 or 3 other companies that do it better than this guy, right? Think of car insurance, right? And so you've got your car insurance policy, and they work up this whole thing, and they give you this whole breakdown, and you're thinking, wow, that's pretty good. But in the back of your mind, you're thinking, well, there's 4 or 5 other major car insurance companies, and they're all selling the same basic thing. Even though this sounds good from this person who's trying to sell me this car insurance, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, how do I know that one of the other places won't offer me the same thing, but at $30 less a month? And you don't know, until you try. And so there's a lot of times where you need to be able to show them that you're the best option. That's why I think that's the psychology behind these car insurance companies that want to show you the quotes of their competition, right? It's so they know that if they can show you what your competition, what the other car insurance companies would give you as a quote for that same thing, then it eliminates this thought in your mind about, okay, well, is there a better option out there, right? And so however you do that, you need to at least address that. You need to make them aware of the competition enough that you can show your superiority over it, right? So, you don't want to just pretend like you're the only one that does this. Probably the better thing is to be up front and say, okay, now listen, there are 2 or 3 other companies that do that, but what you're going to find is that they don't offer you this, or they will give you this, but they won't give you that, and that kind of thing, so you're guiding them into understanding why you are better than your competition. If you just try and push it underneath the rug, what's going to end up happening is they'll look at some other option and think, oh, wow, that sounds better, without being, you kind of know these things better. You could have told them 2 or 3 things that maybe they didn't even notice that causes your product to stand out above the other ones. But if you just ignore it and push it under the rug and hope that they don't look at anybody else, then when they go to somebody else, maybe they don't even notice the parts of yours that would have been superior, right? Because maybe they go to somebody else and that salesman is leading their eyes to the parts of their solution that are better than your solution, or whatever it is. So you don't want to just leave it out there so that the competition is just a blank void in your sales presentation. You want to at least address it, right? And whatever you do, you want to address it in an honest way. One thing that really turns me off about a company is if they try and tell me, well, if you go to such and such, they're going to do this to you and they're going to do that to you. And then, you get the quote from them and it's nothing like that. And you're thinking, well, if these people lied to me about that, What else are they uninformed about or lying about? So any information that you give, it needs to be truthful, it needs to be honest, because people are evaluating your product and your consistent service based on, can they trust you or not, right? So that's a big part of it. So those are 3 of the core things that you need to be thinking about when you're making your sales presentations, right? And there's some other things that we'll get into next week, but this is the foundation of consultative selling, that you're sitting there and you're trying to do what we call cognitive reframing. That's an important term, cognitive reframing. Cognitive means thinking, right? And reframing means adjusting how they see it, right? And so the advantage of consultative selling is that you are now in an interaction with them. You're hearing them, and you're discovering their business, and in the process of doing that, you are able to show them how your solution fits. But the nice thing is now they feel heard, right? They feel like, okay, this is not just somebody that's selling to me who doesn't know anything about me. This is someone who's going right to the heart of what we're trying to accomplish, and you become an ally of the business, right? That you become someone who is almost in partnership with the business, right? And you work your way in so that you become an indispensable part of their business system, and they need to see you as that. And part of the way that you do that is through this interaction, as you're kind of guiding, right? You're the one kind of guiding this, so you have to make sure that they're looking at the right things, right? And you're guiding the conversation, you're guiding the presentation of your material. And in the guiding of the presentation of the material, you have to keep these 3 things in mind. That they are going to want to have a return on investment, so you have to prove that. They are going to have worries and fears and doubts about risk, and so you have to assuage their fears about that. You have to show them that either the risk has been accounted for or that the risk is acceptable in light of the return. And then the third thing is that you have to show them that among all the options that they could choose, that you are the best one, right? And so you have to know what it is about your solution that is preferable to what your competition is offering, and you need to make that very clear to them, because they will often check out 2 or 3 other people. It's very rare that somebody doesn't, particularly in a business where it's it's under the scrutiny of other employees and things like that, or their boss above them, that because there is scrutiny on their decision, people are watching their decision, they very rarely will make a snap judgment in terms of business purchases, right? They're going to want to be able to show their boss, hey, I did my due diligence, I looked at 2 or 3 different companies, and this is the best one, and here's why. And so if you make your case good enough, then they can turn around to the other people in their business and make the same case. And so you need to help them to see, because their boss is going to want to know, well, how come you didn't take care of this risk? Or their boss is going to want to know, what is the return for what you just spent? Or their boss is going to want to know, well, how come you went with them and not them? So these are the 3 core areas as a salesperson that you want to address in your interactions, right? And next week we're going to continue with the consultative selling next week, and kind of look at some other thoughts, particularly relating to you as a change agent, coming alongside your potential client and helping them see what they can become with your product, right? And we'll do that next week.